I'm Josh McEwen here. I'm Dufferin News. And today we're here to talk with Sarah Clark, the founder of Dufferin Media. Now, founded in 2012, Dufferin Media is a team of online professionals that specialize in social media management, internet marketing, and public relations. Dufferin Media has grown to service numerous organizations, both locally and internationally. The team believes in helping businesses grow through branding, strategy, and implementation. Their passion for business and entrepreneurship is the primary focus in helping clients establish and achieve their goals. Today, we are here to talk about accessibility, nonprofits, and a new division of Dufferin Media Cares, which ties it all together. To discuss this with us, like I said, is Sarah Clark, the founder of Dufferin Media. Hi, Sarah. Thank you for your time. Can you tell us a little bit about Dufferin Media Cares?
Hi, Josh. Thanks for having me here today. Absolutely. Dufferin Media Cares is a new division of Dufferin Media that I have been dreaming of for over a year. And I'm super excited to finally be implementing the launch of the division. So we've always believed in giving back through either volunteering or giving programs or our Adopt a Charity campaign, which we've run for the last 3 years. So this is taking that concept one step further, where we're launching a division that will specialize in nonprofit and charity organizations, both locally and internationally. And the goal is to have a division that offers digital marketing services at favorable rates. So that piece is an extension of Dufferin Media Services. And then it will also include more than that. So my vision is that it will include a membership area for the key players and nonprofits, where they have a place to learn, network with each other, support each other, and we have a networking opportunity. So that membership piece, I think, is really exciting and different. It's sort of like one place where everyone can come together and help each other grow in their own organizations. And then third, it's going to have a giving program. So built into the business plan is that a certain portion of all of the income that comes in will be split equally amongst all of the organizations that are part of the membership. So there's continual flow of not just information, but also of funding, of support. And I'm so excited.
Well, that's quite a bit. I mean, the giving part, that's exciting as well. I mean, geez. So I wanted to hop over now into the accessibility piece. How does Dufferin Media Care kind of fit into this? Well, I mean, you're launching a whole new set of services, right? Like around accessibility. Am I wrong?
Yes. So as sort of a natural development that happened as we were getting ready to launch Dufferin Media Cares is I had a conversation with a nonprofit organization, a smaller nonprofit organization. Literally, I don't think they even have any employees. And they were denied the opportunity to apply for a grant because their website was not considered web accessible or up to the web accessibility standards. So that had me step back for a second and just learn as much as I could in a short period of time of everything to do with web accessibility and how it might apply, especially to nonprofit organizations, and how Dufferin Media and Dufferin Media Cares might be able to help these nonprofits become web accessible so that they can apply for those grants. The law in Ontario is actually that all nonprofit and businesses and public organizations with 50 employees or more, they must have their websites to be fully compliant. But what's missed in that opportunity is the discussion about what about the smaller nonprofit organizations, not to mention the businesses. So there's a whole other discussion here that has completely opened my eyes to how important web accessibility is.
It is. I mean, I saw some of the stats, and I mean, a lot of them, like a lot of people, if they have accessibility needs, they just like a lot of people, if it doesn't suit their needs, if it doesn't help them, they're going to just turn away immediately. Like, so, I mean, it's extremely crucial to make sure it is accessible for everybody. And I mean, it's surprising. I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, because I mean, it's surprising to see how many are not accessible. I mean, do you come across many websites that are actually as accessible as they need to be?
A few of them you can tell are really close.
Yeah.
I don't know if any website can be truly compliant because things change so quickly, but you can tell the ones that have been working on it. If I run them through my sort of free audit program that I've installed, there's some that have very few errors. But I mean, those are the government organizations that they have known about this for years and they've been programming it into their websites. But I mean, other businesses and nonprofits, they're just not. The reality is it's not on their radar at all. And so one of my biggest goals, I think, right now, short term, is to bring as much awareness to this topic as we can and start really talking about it and educating nonprofit organizations, educating small business owners, and just getting the word out there that accessibility, it's not just becoming law. It makes it easier for users to consume and interact with your content. And it's just the right thing to do, right? Like it makes so much sense from a social responsibility point of view.
Social responsibility, just from a business perspective too. Like these people are customers. Like you don't want to turn away customers, especially these days.
Exactly. One of the case studies that I watched actually with the course that I took, it was a perfect example of a travel agent. And it was a travel booking website. And it basically showed an older person who was having declining vision, which, I mean, hello, I need bifocals soon, so I'm not far away from that. And they had the worst time trying to navigate through the forms because of the way that the text was. And so instead, what they did is they just went to a different site that was much easier to read, and they booked the travel through them. Perfect example of a real life situation where if your website isn't designed for everyone, you're going to potentially lose some customers.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest with you, it's going to be the bigger guys that get on it first because they have the money to do this. But I mean, that's not a prevention for the little guys. I mean, it tells you that you need to get on it fast because these guys are going to get on it and you don't want to lose this business to them. I mean, it's an incredible competitive advantage. And then when I think about it in terms of a nonprofit organization, I imagine most of them have users that they're trying to help, whether it be a food bank or whether it be, a group that helps seniors. The end users that they're trying to help, they want them to be able to consume the website content, find their hours, find their contact page, whether they're using any sort of assistive devices or they have vision issues. There's so many potential people that they're not going to be able to help if they don't have the accessibility features on their website. 100%. I mean, and like a lot of nonprofits, like they're like, I don't like synonymizing getting older with losing some abilities. But I mean, the more the population is becoming older, and a lot of these people volunteer or use these services, or like a lot of the things you alluded to, like you need to be accessible for everybody. Like that's just the way it goes. And I mean, there's going to be more and more people that need these accommodations, again, especially as more of the population ages. And I mean, again, I don't like synonymizing those two things, but I mean, it's just a reality of life. I mean, some people need extra accommodations as they grow older. And we need to help them. So, I mean, and we want to make sure we're still servicing these people. So, I mean, no, this is great. I love hearing about this because I mean, it's really needed in our community, I think, everywhere. But I mean, it's great to see that's happening in our community and we're not going to be left behind. So, I mean, I think we're really appreciative of what you guys are doing because we don't want to be left behind. We're actually rather progressive in a few areas in this county. So, I mean, we shouldn't be left behind here.
Absolutely.
So I want to make sure this is clear. Are other companies, not just nonprofits, able to hire Dufferin Media for assistance in this area?
Yes, absolutely. There's going to be a lot of communication going out from the dufferinmedia.com website in terms of building awareness to how businesses of all sizes can implement certain accessibility strategies in their marketing. We're also going to be offering any business or nonprofit organization the ability to create accessible websites and do accessibility audits. So that piece is definitely, it's ready to go. We're building our first 2 accessible websites right now. Dufferin Media Cares, of course, is going to be one of them. So the beautiful thing is that we use WordPress for all of our websites. And there are there's thousands of WordPress themes. The beautiful thing is that a lot of developers have created accessible themes that you can get started with, that our team can get started with, and we can customize them so that the basic coding and structure is built with accessibility in mind for screen readers or vision or contrast. So all those things are built into the theme. So part of it is just keeping that in mind when choosing how we're going to start building that website. So definitely, to answer your question, yes, we will be offering the services to everyone.
That's awesome. So I mean, and you mentioned this as well. Like there's some templates out there, and even a few plugins that are designed to increase accessibility. From what you're saying, though, those aren't good enough. They're a starting off point.
They're starting off point. So having a website that's fully accessible, definitely having it created in a program that has the theme and the structure and the plugins is great. But you're always going to have that last human check of everything to go through and do user testing so that if there's anything that the technology is not telling you, that you catch it.
100%. I mean, and it's good to have, like, when you're installing these plugins anyways, it's good to have someone have a final set of eyes and run through the code just in case, so you kind of know what you're running, what you're putting on your website and where everything's going and all that. So, I mean, I see the value of that for sure. And again, just helping, again, that final set of eyes is key, I think. So, I mean, that's great. I heard mention that you guys are going to have an accessibility officer. What's that and what do they do?
Yes. So our accessibility officer, her name is Maglina. So she's fully certified in web accessibility, and her specialty is in the website creation area. However, she's very skilled at everything else too when it comes to digital marketing, graphic design, social media. So she's going to be able to help us with the web accessibility audits that we're going to offer. And she's going to be helping to spearhead the creation of websites that are accessibility compliant.
Awesome. And from what I understand, like, some of your other teammates are going to be also getting trained in this area as well, or certified.
Yeah, this is so incredibly important to myself and the entire team at Dufferin Media. Every single team member is going to take the web accessibility course and become certified by the end of May.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys are really going to be living and breathing this stuff.
Yeah. So we're going to, the entire team will be able to answer questions, at least at the sort of basic foundation level, about web accessibility and how it applies to our clients and our own organization when it comes to websites, social media, any other digital content that might be going out there, email marketing, that sort of thing. So I'm really excited, and the whole team was 100% on board. There was no discussion about it whatsoever.
Well, that's awesome, because I mean, it's great to see everybody on board. I mean, I know full well you have a very caring team there, so I'm not surprised. But I mean, it is awesome to hear, regardless. And that's great. I mean, you guys are dealing with a lot of people just in general that really are getting just started with their websites, and they really kind of go into it not knowing much, if anything. And I mean, a lot of us are in that same boat. Even these days, I mean, the pandemic has emphasized how important it is to have a website, and people are there's quite a few people that are just getting to those stages. But I mean, now is the time to make sure that you don't have to go back and do things twice, 3 times. Like, do it, or if you just did it, get it done now. Don't push it off. Like, this is important stuff. And I mean, you don't want to have to come back. I mean, you're always gonna have to update your website, and I mean, that's important. But I mean, you don't want to have to do a fundamental redesign or anything like that. Because again, especially when you just started. So I mean, I think this is extremely valuable. The timing of this is great, and I mean, this is awesome. Like, I really love hearing about this. So you guys actually have a little bit of a social media checklist And I love to just get a couple. I love to go through a couple of things that I saw on there, if you don't mind.
I don't mind, and I still don't consider myself an expert, so I'll answer the best I can. This is going to be coming out in a blog post in the next few days. It's an infographic, and it'll be a blog post as well.
Awesome. So the one thing I saw, I saw a lot of things around hashtags, and I mean, I see a lot of people using hashtags. I use hashtags. I don't really like them, but I mean, people use them, and they're supposed to be they're helpful for social media posts. So, do you mind? I saw something in there about camel case. What is camel case, and why is it important?
So, camel case is when you create a hashtag, and the first letter of each word is capitalized.
Makes sense, and why that's easier to read too.
It makes it easier to read. So when we're talking about social media and making social media content more accessible, I think the main thing to take away from it is try and make it as user-friendly as possible for everyone. And using that camel case style in the hashtag is one of the ways that you can do that. Because if you're using a hashtag that has, say, 3 words, and you put those 3 words and they all have the same lowercase, it's hard to pull apart what it is. But if you use a capital letter for the first letter of each word, it makes it so much easier for anyone to read.
It's a lot easier to process, a lot faster, and you don't have to put in as much brain effort, which I mean is never a bad thing, but I mean, you don't need to be doing it for a hashtag.
Yeah, 100%. And then the other quick tip for accessibility and for user experience is in a social media post, try not to use the hashtags in the middle of your text. It can be actually quite hard to read for anyone to have to process that hashtag in the middle of your text. I'm going to be honest, I do this all the time.
Me too.
I need to get better at this. They suggest that for accessibility purposes, you only add the hashtags at the end of your social media post, not in the middle.
And I mean, I'm guilty of this too. And I mean, I especially on Twitter, because I mean, Twitter only gives you so many characters and you want to try to save space. I mean, I know a lot of people probably don't use Twitter, that a lot of reviewers, but I mean, those of us that do, they know those character constraints, and they, especially when we're trying to get our posts for all the different platforms. I mean, it's a hard thing to do. So, I mean, that one is tricky, but I completely understand that. Cause I mean, like you said, just processing yourself. If there was text to speech, having to read that in the middle of an actual body of text. And I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think with a lot of these, if people actually think about it and put yourselves, like you just think about it, or even if you put yourself in somebody else's shoes, like you understand a lot of this. Like this makes a lot of sense, a lot of it. But, yeah. But there was another one too, about hashtag clouds, and that going in the first comment of Instagram posts too. That makes, I think that's on a similar vein, right? Like just getting it out of, even if out of the whole post in general, because why does anyone actually need to see that? That's more for the purposes generally of discoverability, is it not?
Yes. I mean, on Instagram, you can see, I mean, what is it? 30 hashtags or something. It's a crazy number that some people use. And if you're using that in the text of your post, there's going to be certain accessibility devices that are going to just struggle through trying to read that content for the user. And then if you think about just good business practice, it's harder to read or consume when there's that much, that many hashtags too. So I think it's a good suggestion. I don't know how Instagram users in general might feel about this, but it's just it's a suggestion when trying to make, if you're specifically trying to make your social media more accessible to everyone, definitely keeping that in mind, I think, is important. If you're going to use like 30 hashtags, it's going to be difficult for people with accessibility issues. So why not just put them in the comment below?
That makes complete sense. I'm sure reassessing how I use hashtags too. And I mean that, yeah, like putting in the first comment, I don't think is a burden on anybody really. I think that makes it, again, like it's easier. And if there is a text to speech, having to go through 30 hashtags, and I mean, and then if you actually need it and you're rushing to try to stop, it's like, I don't need to listen to 30 hashtags. It just makes it easier. It just makes it a lot easier.
I completely agree.
Nobody needs to put up with that. And then also alt text. That was something else that came up. Alt text. So can you tell us what alt text is? I think there's a lot of people that don't know what that is.
So alt text or alternative text is basically when you add an image anywhere on the internet, it tells the internet what that image is in words. So it's the text that explains what that picture is. So you may have heard it in relation to search engine optimization.
Yep.
They suggest that when you're creating your website, you always use alt text when you're adding the images, and that alt text is suggested to be a keyword that you're trying to rank for. So using alt text is an SEO strategy. Taking that one step further, when we're talking about accessibility on websites or social media, alt text is a way that certain accessibility devices will tell the user what that picture looks like or what that picture is of. So if it's a picture of like a cute puppy and the alt text is something completely different, then the user won't get that context. The alt text should actually say, this is a cute puppy playing with a ball or something like that. It should actually explain in clear words what that picture is. There's an incredible strategy, not just for accessibility concerns, but also for SEO. So if you're using these two things combined together, you're going to actually benefit from a couple different things.
Yeah. I mean, I know whenever I'm putting together my blog post, like my articles and anything I put together, that's always like with Yoast. That's always the thing they tell you to do. Make sure you include your alt text.
Yeah.
And and again, like I also think it comes up with the picture. I mean, I don't think this happens too often anymore, but when the picture doesn't load properly, I think it shows alt text instead.
Yes, that's a very good point too.
So there's a lot of advantage. I mean, and on Facebook, it's great to see it on social media because I think that's a relatively new feature on a lot of these social. I think Facebook had it, but I'm seeing it on LinkedIn. I know I'm seeing it on Twitter, and it's probably on Instagram too.
Yeah,
that's great. That is great.
It's a quick win if you can put your alt text not just on website images, but on social media as well.
Yeah, because I think that gets lost on a lot of people. I mean, including myself. I'll be honest, like I haven't been doing that, and I mean, that just tells you how much what I was doing was strictly just for SEO and not for accessibility, which isn't a great thing to do. So I mean,
and I suspect that what you'll also see is once you start adding alt text to your social media posts, you're going to start seeing them on the Google image results pretty quickly.
That's even better. So there's a few advantages doing it. It's not just for helping your customers. There's always a benefit, which you always should be doing. But I mean, it's also
all of this is win-win, Josh.
That's awesome. That's great. I mean, again, I look forward to when the blog posts come out and with the infographic, because I mean, there's gonna be so much people will learn. Like I know I've learned a little from a little I've seen. It's great. Like I mean, it's so helpful, and I mean, I'm gonna be definitely incorporating that, especially around the hashtags. I mean, that seems like a relatively easy thing to do, especially on the other social media posts besides Twitter.
Yeah.
But we can definitely make it work on Twitter too, I think. If we just put it's a little bit more thought. I mean, I'll make sure I do that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and then there was one more thing. Why so many tips around emojis? Why are those a concern?
I think that people with accessibility and vision issues, maybe even cognitive issues, they have problems processing what some of those images mean.
Yeah.
So, and then take that one step further and imagine what a accessibility device might do with those emojis. So I think there's a couple of different reasons why, for accessibility purposes, they're suggesting that you reduce your emojis or try not to use them in the middle of your social media posts. I like seeing them in the middle of social media posts. For me, I feel like emojis make a social media post just more fun to read, more interesting, more human. But there's the other side of that some people will not be able to really process that at all and understand what that post is trying to say. So in this case, for accessibility, this might be something that a nonprofit specifically would really be considering, is how to present the text of their social media post so that all of their users can understand it.
That makes complete sense. I mean, there's a few emojis. I mean, I don't really like them, but they're I found some of them confusing. So, I mean, I don't know what some of them are. I don't know what some of them mean. And I mean, I imagine there's other people in the same boat as me. So, I mean, I can completely relate to that one.
And imagine people in the older demographic too, in the aging demographic, they don't know. Even I would say, I don't know what half the stuff is my kids use for emojis. I often have to ask them. So imagine people in the older generation, they don't necessarily know what any of them are, and they might take them out of context.
Yeah.
So just that's part of the education that we're looking forward to exploring and offering to the audience, so that, I mean, each business owner can make their own decision. They can say, okay, that's great. I'm glad that I learned this information about emojis. I'm going to keep it in mind, but I still want to post with emojis because, and that's fine. They can make their own decision, but at least they're making an educated decision.
Yeah, information is key. And I mean, at least you're aware, people are aware of these things. And again, we don't want to be left behind. We're quite ahead in a few areas around here. We don't want to be getting behind on that one. That's
right.
Especially when much of our population is probably going to need help in some circumstance when it comes to accessibility online. So, I mean, this is great, Sarah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
And think about the competitive advantage too, Josh. Like if a small business owner can say, accessibility is really important to me. And so for my real estate business or whatever business they're in, they've committed to create a website that's fully accessible, and their social media is fully accessible. And they educate people, and they have an accessibility policy on their website. So even though they don't have to be, they're doing it because it's the right thing to do. It gives them an incredible competitive edge.
100%. I mean, especially with small businesses against themselves, but I mean, even against the big guys take shortcuts. I mean, they have lawyers and stuff, but I mean,
let's not get Josh started on that.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like it is 100% a competitive edge, and it is great. I mean, I'm glad that somebody in this community is really pushing this forward, making sure we're not, like the bigger companies in the area aren't going to be left behind. So at least they're a little bit aware of what's going on for the June. I mean, some people might be aware, but I think there's going to be a lot of people caught off guard by this. And I think so, which is unfortunate. Because again, it'd be great if we were ahead of this, not behind.
Right. Especially if you're a nonprofit organization and you're applying for grants to help people in your community, but you're totally blocked because they say, oh no, we don't accept grants from websites that are not accessible.
Yeah,
we never rambling.
Yeah, like I never actually hit up, because that's what started all this. And I mean, yeah, and that's a competitive edge right there. Because I mean, you're competing for grant dollars too. I mean, and also donors. I mean, donors like seeing that stuff. We all like seeing that stuff. And I mean, because it is helpful and it's beneficial to everybody. And especially when you think about nonprofits are meant to help people. So I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So
our goal is to make sure that they can help as many people as possible.
That's awesome. Again, thank you so much, Sarah. I really appreciate this. Like, I love learning more. And I mean, I think the community will learn a lot from this, and especially the small business owners, anybody that has touches the web in any aspect, and even our own personal posts. Like we can make our own personal posts a little bit more accessible, everyday people. It doesn't just have to be businesses or nonprofits. I mean, we have friends, it's for everybody. We can all learn from this stuff. So, I mean, I appreciate it a ton. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Josh.
Before we wrap it up, is there anything you'd like to say to the community?
I don't think so. Just keep an eye out on the dufferinmedia.com website. We are going to be launching a free accessibility audit, which will be available to any business or nonprofit organization. So that's the first sort of launch that we're having in the month of April. And if you go to www.dufferinmediacares.com, you can sign up. If you're a nonprofit organization, that's what that site is specifically tailored for. You can sign up to be notified when our full site and the membership area launches, which we're anticipating will be by May 1st.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you.
When it comes to the accessibility audit, how does that work? Like, do they contact you and then you do the audit?
Yes. So we're going to offer a free web accessibility audit that will take a quick look at 10 key areas of accessibility and rank that business or organization on how well they're doing with accessibility, and we'll provide that to them. And then further audits, paid audits, that sort of thing will be discussed down the road. But for right now, we're just trying to increase awareness of accessibility issues. So we're offering this free audit that our compliance officer will be doing. And it's just really to get a report of somebody looking at your website and saying, okay, you literally have no alt tags. So you rate 0 out of 10 in alt tags. So all the different pieces, like the color contrast, there's so many points that go into web accessibility. So the audit's going to sort of try and cover and educate people about that.
We never talked about that, but yeah, that color contrast, just as someone who's colorblind, I can, that's an important one too. So, no.
Huge consideration, Josh. You are definitely, there's a huge population. I saw the stat the other day. It's something like 8 to 15% of all men are colorblind. It's a huge number.
Wow.
And color contrast is an incredible issue when it comes to creating websites that I don't think goes into the design process.
No. And that it isn't. There's, but again, I can't talk too well. I can hardly put together an outfit. So I like weather coordinating colors and things like that. So, I'm not going to be too hard on anybody, but I'm glad that there's people working in this area to make things better for people. And again, thank you so much. Cause it is a huge help. I just know for my own personal stuff and other people that I talk to as well. This is going to be a huge help to everybody. And again, whether you're a business, a nonprofit, or an individual, we can all get a little bit more better when it comes to making our things or even our posts more accessible. So, that's great. And again, businesses and nonprofits have websites and a lot of other aspects too. So, this is great. Again, thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
What's the best way to contact you? I want to make sure I get that in there too. Sorry.
Definitely through the website, www.dufferinmedia.com, or you can email me, sarah@dufferinmedia.ca.